Well, not just me. I think if you have any questions for Professor Brown, so evidently we have close to 10 minutes. Yeah. I might head toward you because you're far away.
We have a microphone for people who would like to ask questions. And if you'd like to come down, that might be the easiest. But let me take the microphone up here for this first question.
So this question is addressed to both Professors Webb and Brown. The question of the bloody sweat, I think, is more complicated for Latter-day Saints than first blush. So in the gospel narrative itself, there's not bloody sweat. There is sweat, as it were, drops of blood descending to the ground. And so Luke in his text already has built-in simile. And so it's difficult to see actual blood there, though in ancient sources, for sure, bloody sweat was known by philosophers and physicians. But even in Latter-day Saint scripture, it's not totally secure that there was blood there. So often verses from Mosiah 3 and Doctrine and Covenants 19 are brought up. But the Joseph Smith translation of that verse from Luke switches the noun, hydros, sweat, and makes it into a verb. And the Joseph Smith translation says, he sweated, as it were, drops of blood. In fact, the switching from the noun to the verb even really solidifies the fact that it was sweat, as it were, drops of blood. And then we don't need to go any further than that. But so I do think that we need to exercise some caution as to seeing literal blood or blood from every pore, as it says in Mosiah 3 or Doctrine and Covenants 19. I don't know that we need to see literal blood there, because that's both stretching what Luke has in his text and the Joseph Smith translation of the text. And so my question is, a comment and a question, how would you respond to this? And also, my comment is caution needed.
I'm going to let the exegesis and Greek expert, Kent Brown, respond to that, because it really is an exegetical question. Where did he go? Oh, would you mind? I have something I could say too, but.
And don't forget, we have a paper on that this afternoon, so we'll steal Lincoln's time.
That's right. Lincoln will soon be behind this microphone, and he'll have a lot to say to it. It has to do with the Greek particle hos and how it's understood, whether it's like drops of blood, the sweat is like drops of blood, or whether it is as, and making it into drops of blood. I have no exegetical problem with the language of Mosiah 3 or D&C 19, and I've never known of anybody who, on the basis of those descriptions, backed up and said, I don't think Jesus bled. For me, the verbs in the imperfect in the passage are also part of the scene, that he goes forward, falls, and prays. Goes forward, falls, and prays. The pain is so intense. He's like an athlete who, in his extreme effort to perform well with pain in the body, tries to find a position or some kind of a crouching motion or something like that to relieve the pain or the distress. I ride a bike, and when I'm going up Squaw Peak, I find myself adjusting myself on the saddle because of the test of trying to ride up that thing. If I were 20 pounds lighter, it might be easier. But at any rate, it's in the hos and how you understand it. Lincoln will have more to say about this quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the interesting thing is that Joseph recovers a dimension of that text, and I'm aware that there are difficulties in the reading of the original Greek there, but he recovers a dimension of that text that is quite consonant with the Catholic reading of it, and especially the medieval reading of it. So, to me, that's a striking similarity there that makes for interesting dialogue. Yeah. We still have, according to Maureen, we still have a few minutes.
I was wondering if in Dr. Huntsman's presentation there's any regard given to the mental illness versus possession.
Well, I just treated that briefly in passing. Certainly that is a rationalizing approach to the issue of exorcism phenomenon. And I have no doubt that many people in the ancient world did look at psychological and mental challenges as well as some things like epilepsy and attributed it to demons. I'm simply saying that as the evangelists portrayed these particular encounters, they assumed that this was cases of demonic possession because they have Jesus dialoguing with the demons, casting them out, etc. So it doesn't, dispense with the fact that a lot of things have been improperly considered the cause of direct demonic influence. But for the purposes of these evangelists, they are showing this as part of Jesus' larger defeat of the powers of Satan and the fall.
Okay, one more question back here, and then we'll...
Brother Huntsman is there. I'd like you to comment on how mortals avoid
Well, that is not really in the scope of this conference. I mean, that's a theological issue. I was treating an ancient text. Do you really want me to do that in the setting? I have no problem with exploring that, but that's not what the texts themselves are presenting us with. What the texts are showing is all kinds of challenges that we encounter in our fallen experience are overcome by Satan. Overcome by Jesus. They're not laying out how people got that way. Okay, they're showing, in fact, that's why I made the point of saying in none of the cases of clear demonic possession are we told how the people got possessed. Yes, okay. In another project, which will not be named because we're not supposed to advertise things, I point out that if we see the demonic possessions here as not simply cases of isolated actual possessions, but rather symptomatic or illustrative of our fallen state, we know that innocent children all the time are affected adversely by their fallen state, whether it be because of genetic malformations, developmental disorders, abuse, etc. All of us, children and adults, suffer not always because of our choices, sometimes because of the choices of others just because of the perils of mortality. We suffer problems that need to be overcome by Jesus. So that's why I mentioned that point about when innocents suffer. I mean, perhaps I brought that too much to the fore by mentioning how my junior Sunday school teacher scared me to death as a child. And so this is why I should not go off text and simply say what I'm prepared to say. But actually that offhanded comment was done on purpose to lay out the danger of making assumptions when we don't have clear scriptural evidence. We don't know why people suffer, and I have no more time for this. I have a son with autism, and this has been, to be honest, very informative. This has shaped the way I address these issues. Elaine and I have never been concerned about why Samuel has autism because it doesn't change anything. What we're concerned with is how do we make his life as positive now, and what hope do we have through Christ that through the resurrection that will be overcome. And so this is the point. I don't debate that possession happens today, and there are probably spiritual steps you can take to avoid that. But what I'm more concerned with are the problems all of us face in our fallen state, which the scriptures clearly lay out. There is hope through Jesus. So, I mean, we can talk off the clock about what you can do to build up your brick wall, to use my teachers.
And since we're talking about the clock, we have a 10-minute break. Be back here sharp at 10:55 because you can tell that every minute counts. So we'll see you at 10:55.